Hi, I'm Linda, and this is No Frills ASMR. I have here Trader Joe's cultured salted butter, produced in Brittany, France. And I was looking at it this morning, and it got me thinking about butter. So the other night, my son came over for dinner, and we had steak, baked potato, and broccoli. And I put butter on everything because we're Americans. That's what we do. But and we were debating whether this Trader Joe's cultured salted butter was tastier than the Kerrygold Irish butter, and how that compares to what I call like cooking butter. Like when I buy the cardboard package with 4 sticks, usually I use that more if I'm going to bake like cookies or something, or brownies. But this kind of butter I get to put sort of like a finishing butter to melt on top of potato or steak. Anyway, so it got me kind of thinking about butters. And this butter, see how it's like Kerrygold's a much darker yellow. This is like a very light color butter, but it tastes delicious, and it's less expensive, at least at our Trader Joe's, than the Kerrygold. They carry both. Usually they have both. So anyway, it led me down a little road. And in the United States, our butter is grated. It's grated, well, I'll tell you, it is grated butter. Butter, baby. You can either get a AA grade, a single A, or a B. This is the best to be a grade AA butter. Now, this one does not have any USDA indication on here, grading on here. And so that's what kind of led me down this whole slippery, buttery slope. Was, do these European butters need to be graded? But apparently they don't. And generally, European butters, surprise, surprise, are a little, they aim for our grade AA or higher. They usually use at least 80% milk fat. And if it says European style butter, which I don't know that this one actually says that, then those usually have 82 to 85% milk fat. And they churn it longer than we do in the US. So you get like a, more delicious butter, if I'm honest. It says a cultured, full-flavored butter produced for us in the French province of Brittany, known for a high-quality butter. And then this is cultured. And what that means is that they put some bacteria in here, like a yogurt would have, to give it a little tanginess. I'll be honest. Yeah, there is a tanginess. I never even thought about what this cultured word means for this butter until this morning. So I think that's a little of the difference between the Kerrygold and this, is it's cultured. I don't think Kerrygold's cultured, is it? Anyway, so there's your European butters. But in the US, we use a grading system of the USDA, the United States Department of Agriculture. I thought I was going to forget that for a minute. They have set up this grading system, and it has been in place since 1923, I think is what I read. And that was because, hold on, I got to clear my throat. They were trying to standardize the industry, because before that, there was just no quality control. And like I've said before, if you don't police businesses, they will cut corners any way they can to save money. And people who think that's not true are just wrong. I'm not saying every business, but most businesses. Um, so they were, before the system, the USDA system, they would send out butters that were like, I'm sorry, dyed colors, like dyed sort of orange, or sometimes they would be rancid, or they would have, and this is crazy, I read about sawdust fillers in the butter to kind of fill it. So in 1923, the USDA said we need to do a nationwide system to grade the butter so people know what they're paying for. And that is when they put in the grading system. And what they look for in butter is texture, color, salt, and then they say what the use will be, I believe. So they grade the butter, and I think like a perfect score would be 100 points. But flavor, what did I do here? Texture, color, salt. I forgot flavor, the most important. Oh, shoot. I forgot to say flavor. This is the most important part. Okay. Flavor counts for 50 points of that 100 points. So they taste it. Flavor's a big deal. And then texture will count for 25 points. The color is 15 points. And the salt is 10 points. Okay. And we'll go into a little more about those things. Do I need to rewrite this card, or you guys? I know what we can do. Hold on. I'll fix it. Sometimes you gotta fix things on the fly. Okay. So we have the USDA uses a 100-point system, and 50 points of that is flavor, and then texture, and then color, and if it's a salted butter, then the salt's 10%. And then they just talk about the uses of the butter, so we'll put that there. And this is this USDA system. Look at that, fixed it. Okay, so the best butter, quality butter you can buy in the United States is graded AA butter. And with that butter, the flavor should be delicate and sweet. It's like they're describing me, isn't it? And highly pleasing. Yeah. Oh my God. It's just like me. And highly pleasing. Okay. Sounds pretty tasty. And then the texture is smooth and creamy. Smooth and creamy. And the color should be uniform. So it's not about like the darkness of color, it's about the uniformity of color, and bright and natural. I can't fit it, but okay. Natural. And then this is where the salt. Okay, now not all butter is salted, and we'll talk a little more about the salt. But if it's salted butter, it should be evenly distributed. So you don't get some bites that are like salty, and some bites that are like, It should be like nice and even throughout the butter. Distributed. Okay, and with a AA grade butter, it's like premium level. So you're going to use these for like your table, for like putting on bread, on toast, on baked potatoes. And And then also you could use it for baking and cooking, for especially for nicer, things. Baking and cooking. And so this is quality. This is your highest quality. And I think European butters are going to be AA or higher, to be honest, or above our level. Okay, the next type of butter they sell in the US is grade A butter. I didn't go to the grocery store and look, but I think a lot of times when you go to the grocery store and there's like, the sticks of butter, like the store brand butter. I could be wrong. You can look, but I think those are generally grade A butter. It's still good. It's good, but it's not the same as this. So with grade A, the flavor, they describe it as fairly sweet and pleasing. I'm going to put that down here. Pleasing. And but it may have like some little defects. They said it could have like little bits of bitterness or sort of a cooked flavor. Maybe this describes me a little more. So how do I phrase that? With slight defects. That sounds bad, but like just not quite as high end as this. And I would think part of why you may have, unevenness or whatever is that it hasn't been churned as much, would be my guess. I guess I shouldn't say that. I don't know that for sure, but I think so. Okay, and then the texture of it, they just add the word fairly smooth. It can maybe be a little grainy. And this was a weird word, or sticky. I don't want my butter sticky. Sticky butter sounds not great. Okay, and then the color and the salt. So both of these. They're still even, but not as pristine, not as evenly. So there might be a little bit of, and I have seen this where I've opened a stick of butter and the color is like, it might be a little darker in a spot. It's just a little uneven distribution of color. I don't know about salt. I've never noticed that, but it's still even, but not as perfect. Still even, not as good. This feels like, I don't know. Anyway, okay. So that's what they said about the A butter. Now, the other butter is B, grade B. Now grade B butter, you can't generally buy, I don't think you can buy it in a grocery store. This is like a commercial grade butter. And the flavor may have actually noticeable defects, which sounds kind of sketch. It could be tangy or acidic. Doesn't sound good, does it? Or taste cooked. Which I wonder, does that mean kind of like burnt? What does that really mean? Cooked or smoky? I'm not sure. And then the texture, you're not gonna like this. It says maybe crumbly or sticky. Crumbly implies to me there's not enough fat in it, doesn't it? I don't know. Did I mention I'm no butter expert? I mean, I've eaten my share of butter. I think I forgot to say that. Crumbly or sticky? I just looked it up. I Googled around and found out. And then the mainly this is used for industrial baking or in like processed foods where the flavor is going to be covered up like I want to say a branded cookie called, I'm afraid to say it because I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure that like I think like Chips Ahoy has a thing on their label that says real butter. I think they mean this. Like that's the kind of thing that they'd put this butter in. So that's what grade B butter is. It's not quite at the same level. So a grade double A butter has to score a 93 on our 100-point chart. A 93. So that's pretty good. And they do have these certified USDA inspectors who taste butter. That's what they do all day. They taste butter. Now, I have mentioned before that I always buy salted butter because I know that a lot of chef types, and Martha Stewart was the one I think I referenced one time. She always says buy unsalted butter. That way you can add the salt to your liking. But I find for baking, I don't know, a lot of times it makes the baked goods taste not salty enough for me, like doesn't bring out the sweet flavor, but I guess I could add more salt. I don't know. I'm afraid of messing it up. And then like for like toast, I like just the butter being salted. I can put a little butter and then my jam and call it a day. But I'll tell you the reason that I learned today that I really didn't know about salted butter. So when they do this, if it's salted, they check to make sure the salt is evenly distributed and not overly salty or underly salty. That's part of what they're grading. But the reason why chefs like unsalted butter is because salt is a preservative. And so when a company makes unsalted butter, they assume it will be used very quickly because there's no preservative. So they put their freshest butter into the unsalted butter. And the butter, like the creamer, I don't know if they know it's maybe, I don't know how true this is, that the salted butter they know can sit for a lot longer than the unsalted. So the unsalted is fresher. Does that make sense? That's why I was like, okay, I guess that's pretty interesting. The other thing is the salt in butter, it can mask the flavor of any defects. So like the salted butter is going to be a little more forgiving if you're buying like the grade A butter. They know if they put salt in the grade A butter, you're not going to taste for example, butter can change flavor just like dairy, based on what the cow was eating. My mom always talks about growing up and going to the farm, and the cows would eat green onions, and then your milk would taste like green onion. And I think that can happen with butter. And it can change the color of the milk, of the butter, based on what the cow is eating. So anyway, I don't know. That's just a little bit about the salted butter. And then this butter is wrapped in this like foil wrap, and so is Kerrygold and some other European butters I've seen. And apparently they do that to it helps prevent flavor contamination in your refrigerator. And it keeps it out of sunlight, which can damage the quality of the butter. The other thing I forgot to look up, but I had a friend who was a potter, and she made butter. They like held butter. I forget what they're called. They're just like, and it would keep it in water so that the water seals it so it can't get bacteria. And then you'd I forget how it works. You'd flip it, and then you'd have, I guess that's what it was. It had like a bowl, and the butter would go in the bowl. And then you put it in this thing that has water. Is that how and so it would stay fresh. But then any day you want to use it, it's soft butter. And I think they do that in Europe more. They keep it on their counter. Let me know if you're from Europe. Well, we Americans keep it in our refrigerator. Now, I will say that in the South, and even where I am right now, it's so hot. This butter would be liquid all over the counter if I just kept it out without air conditioning, Anyway, but yeah, I guess this helps protect the butter, and because if you leave butter like in your refrigerator open, it can pick up, if you have an onion in there, if you have any other ingredients, it can pick up those flavors that are in the air of like onions. They say garlic, but I've never kept garlic in my fridge, but I guess some people do. Anyway, and then the cultured, like I said, they added a bacteria. I was looking at the ingredients because like I said, it says pasteurized cream, which that's another thing in the US. They have to use pasteurized cream. I don't think that's true in Europe. Okay. Pasteurized cream. I can't read it. Oh, lactic acid cultures and salt. So that is what this is made of. And it's pretty tasty. I will say that. It's pretty tasty. Okay, anything else about butter? Butter. I love butter. Oh, I know what else I was going to say. That a lot of the industrial situations where they use it, that we were talking about, the grade B, even there, they're not using grade B butter. I think a lot of times those butters are actually oil or a mix, a blend. Like, I'll tell you a secret. I should save this for my Red Lobster. When I worked at Red Lobster, they have drawn butter that they serve with crab legs and lobster and everything. It comes in a box, and it is like soybean oil and food coloring and salt. And that way it doesn't ever separate. It looks the same all the time. You keep it in almost like a coffee urn to keep it hot, and you just pour it out. That's what that is. It's not butter. It's not butter at all. But yeah, that's sort of the so I don't know how much commercial. I looked up the B, and they said sometimes they sell big blocks of it to restaurant frozen, and then they can just scoop it and use it for anything. And that would be not a good restaurant, because you can kind of taste the difference, but a not great restaurant. Or airline food, sometimes they use it, I guess. And for industrial baking, they said I looked up schools. I don't think schools really are using it. I don't think. I'm trying to remember. There was something else that made me go, oh, prison systems. They'll use grade B butter. But yeah, I think commercial baking, where they want to be able to say real butter, I think a lot of times they're using this. But if it's within a recipe, I'm sure a lot of times it doesn't even matter, because they're probably using mostly what do you call it, Crisco or whatever, and just a little bit so they can put butter on the label, would be my guess. I don't know. Anyway, so there we go. There's our butter. I bet you guys already knew all that, huh? Well, you learned something new. Yeah, so I don't think Kerrygold butter, I think it says grass-fed Irish butter. So I think that's that one's grass-fed. This one doesn't say grass-fed. And, in the U.S., most cows are fed corn. They're fed corn. Now, and so what they tell you in the, kind of health food community is the reason why grass-fed is better is because the cows are eating the grass, which is healthier. And I don't know if this is true. This is just what they say. And that by eating the grass, their milk contains more of the good fats like omega-3, omega 3s and, good fats. And so the butter contains more of that, of the good fat. I think that's right. So that's why a lot of people like the grass-fed. It's not necessarily the taste as the health part of it, but it also tastes good. But so does this. Anyway. All right. I'm trying to think if there was anything else I was going to tell you. I don't think so. I think maybe that was it. I do know that I read that and maybe I already told you this, but the butter from Europe, usually U.S. butter contains less than 80% milk fat, but the European butters contain 82 to 85% milk fat. So their butter has more of the fat in it, and they're churned more. So I think that's part of why they just taste yummy. But they're more expensive. So, so if I'm making brownies, I'll just use like regular grocery store butter that's less expensive. But anytime I'm making, sauteing something or whatever, I'll use this. But if you use this for like cookies, I think you have to use like a whole stick of it. And this is like, what, $5 or something. So I can't think of anything else. So, all right, guys, we'll just cut these up. I'll talk to you soon. So AA quality, you have to have a 93. I don't know what point you have to be an A. I don't think I took a note on that in my... I don't know. You have A, and then you have B. So, with A, you have delicate, sweet, and highly pleasing. You have smooth and creamy. And you have uniform, bright, and natural. Natural, not orange. And you have even distribution of salt. And then with A, you have fairly sweet and pleasing with slight defects. And fairly smooth, but it might be a little grainy or sticky. I don't think I've ever had sticky butter like that. And the color and salt are nice and even,